All right, so in lesson 6.13, we are going to be dividing decimals by decimals, and hopefully you're looking at it in your book. If not, and you're needing to find your way there, pause it because we are at page 455. Find it in your book so that you can be doing it with us. So the key thing when we are dividing with decimals is that you need to change the divisor into a whole number. That's something that we talked about before. It's the main reason why people make mistakes and they find this super crazy confusing is because they're not changing their divisor to a whole number. Once you do that, it's just like what we did in chapter 3 and 4. And we're in chapter 6, so this should be like a snap, right? So now the key thing though with this lesson now is that when you change your divisor to a whole number, you need to change your dividend by multiplying it by the same power of 10. Now, if that sounds confusing, well, an easy way to just say it is however many times you move your decimal in your divisor to make it a whole number, you're going to do the same thing to your dividend. That makes sense. So let's look at our first example. Casey is 4.5 feet tall. Her brother, Jerome, is 6.75 feet tall. How many times taller is Jerome than Casey? So the basic problem, the one that we are actually solving here, is 6.75 divided by 4.5. And I like the book. It gives us some great examples and problems to work with. However, I don't like how it already changed all of our long division work on the right side here. So you need to understand that when you write it out, you want to use the real numbers, the numbers from the problem. And they show that right over here. But we need to look and identify how they are changing the 4.75, or I'm sorry, the 4.5. So when they move 4.5, they move that decimal once to the right, they're turning that into the whole number, 45. Because they moved it only once to the right, we do the same thing with 6.75. I'm going to move it the same number of times, once to the right, and that now becomes 67.5. That is why we see those numbers already in the long division example here on the right side highlighted in yellow. So now we do the real work. So, and let's bring up our ink just a hair. So 45 doesn't go into 6, so we don't put anything above it. 45 does go into 67 once. 45 times 1 is 45. I subtract 45 from 67, so 7 minus 5 is 2. 6 minus 4 is 2. And when I think about this, 22 is less than 45. So we're on the right track. Now, here's the key thing. Please show that you brought down this 5, right? So now, it helps keep things nice and organized and aligned. So now I need to think 45 goes into 225 how many times? And with long division, you're going to be doing a lot of work on the side. So we can pick a number and think, well, 45 is about 50, and 225 is about 200, right? So I can think, well, 40 goes into 200, or I said 50 goes into 200 4 times. Well, since this is 225, it's more than that, and 45 is less. Let's go the other direction. Let's turn our 45 and think about it as a like 40, right? And if I multiplied 40 times 5, that'd give me 200. So that should fit in there. So now let's use the real number, 45 times 5. And the only reason I estimated here was to at least get a starting point of what should I multiply this by. It's a lot of guess and check when you do this work on the side. So now 45 times 5. 5 and 5 is 25. 5 down, carry the 2. 5 and 4 is 20, plus 2 is 22. Ding, 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 right? So we get our perfect 225. I subtract, I get 0. I make sure I put my number up top. And now we have 1.5 as our answer. Now, another reason why I don't like how they already did this for us in the book is we don't see how we move this over once to the right. That decimal point was right here between the 6 and the 7. We moved it over once to the right. And when you move it over in your dividend, take it straight up to put it into your quotient so it's already there. That's always a good habit to get into. Move it up as you get started. So Jerome is 1.5 times taller than Casey. And we could check our work and say 1.5 times 4.5. 5 and 5 is 25. 5 down, carry the 2. 5 and 1 is 5 plus 2 is 7. Now, I'm going to put my magical placeholder 0 here. PHZ. Please don't forget your placeholder 0. Now I can multiply. 4 and 5 is 20. 0 down. Carry the 2. 4 and 1 is 4 plus 2 is 6. I add this up. 5 and 0 is 5. 7 and 0 is 7. 675. Oh, no. I have to remember. I have to count how many numbers do I have to the right of the decimal in my problem. I have one number to the right of the decimal in 1.5. I have one number to the right of the decimal in 4.5. So when I add that together, I should have two numbers to the right of the decimal in my answer. 1, 2, right? I bring it over. So my answer is 6.75, and that's exactly what we started with as our dividend in the problem. So everything checks out. Beautiful. All right. So let's do another one here. So find 6/100ths divided by 1.5. So again, they've already done all this little work on the side. I want to look at this and see how we are going to move it over once to the right in my 1.5. And then I'm going to move it once to the right in my 6/100ths, right? So now doing so, so we moved that over. So this is actually, oh, well, because they already moved it over. That's why it looks, that's why I don't like how they do all this already in the book, right? So we moved it over once, 1.5, and then they move it over once to the right in 0.06. So that decimal goes straight up in our answer. And that's why it's right up here to the left of the 6 in our the highlighted area to the side. Right? So we have to look at this. 15 does not go into 0, so we put a 0 up top. 15 does not go into 6, so I put a 0 above the 6. And we multiply. 15 times 0 is 0. That's why we have here. I subtract. 6 minus 0 is 6. We bring down this 0. But where'd that 0 come from? Right? Because I don't see it over here, right? So this is because they annexed a 0. So they annex a 0, bring it down. 15 goes into 60 now. 4 times. 4 times 15 is 60. I subtract, we get 0. All right. So we could check our work, say 4/100ths times 1.5, and we get back to the original 6/100ths. All right, so let's do another one here. 6.89 divided by 1.3. So this looks a little bit more normal in how you guys would be doing this. So we are going to move the decimal once to the right in 1.3 to make it a whole number, 13. I'm going to move it once to the right to make this 68.9. Now, when I do that, I'm going to take it straight up into my quotient. So now 13 doesn't go into 6, but 13 can go into 68 5 times. 5 times 13, let's do that on the side. 5 and 3 is 15. 5 down, carry the 1. 5 and 1 is 5. Plus 1 is 6. 65. That's less than 68, so this works. So 65, I subtract, and we get 3. I bring down that 9, show that arrow bringing it down. 13 goes into 39 3 times because 13 times 3, 3 and 3 is 9. 3 and 1 is 3 is 39. 3 goes up top. 39 minus 39, I get 0. So because we already brought that decimal up, our answer, our quotient looks good from the start, 5.3. Beautiful. Let's do an example down here.